Help, I am too tired to teach. We answer this real life teacher question today on the Teach for the Heart podcast. Well, welcome back to the Teach for the Heart podcast, where we tackle teaching challenges from a biblical perspective. This episode is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. I'm here today with Ashley, one of our team members, to answer this question. So first, I want to read the question that came to us from one of our members. This teacher says, I'm exhausted and I'm not sure what to do about it. I'm in my 24th year of teaching. I teach reasonable lessons, but I've always had trouble getting grading done. In the past year, the time I usually spend on Saturdays planning and grading has greatly decreased due to family concerns. My concentration is shot. I stay up late trying to work, but it doesn't happen, and then I lose sleep. The next day, I'm more tired, and the same thing happens again and again. Any ideas? So I know, Ashley, God has called us to teach, but not to run ourselves ragged like this and ignore our need for rest. What advice would you give to this teacher?
So the first thing that I would say is give yourself grace. Um, a teacher told me a while back that we can't always operate at 100%. Some years we are going to have to give a little bit less. And that's just the reality of life. Sometimes hard things happen, family things happen. And so we can't give as much as we would be able to give during other years. And that was really good advice for me at the time, because that was exactly what I needed to hear, that this year's not going to look like other years. You're not going to be able to operate at the same capacity. And so you need to A, give yourself grace, and B, you need to find a way to reduce things, knowing that you aren't going to be able to do that, which sounds like exactly what this teacher is struggling with.
Right. And yeah, I was thinking similarly. I was thinking about how a lot of times we try to be idealistic when we look at our
Yeah.
time and our schedule and what we want to get done, but we have to be realistic and
Uh-huh.
recognize, like, I have a finite amount of time. And especially, as you said, in a hard season, it sounds like you've got stuff going on. This teacher has stuff going on in their family.
Mhm.
There might not be as much time. There's clearly
Yeah.
not as much time. And so it's not realistic to just say, I can cram as much in as I used to. So it's like
Yeah.
you have to cut back. And so I think a really helpful thing is to start by just looking at your week. And I actually recommend doing this every week, like not just once forever, and actually saying, like, how much time do I have? When can I realistically work?
Mhm.
And saying, I'm going to stay up till midnight is not realistic.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to fall asleep. So set it reasonably. Say, okay, I can work from 8 to 10 or 8 to 9:30. Like, that's what I can do. And then once you have that, then you can start to make better decisions about, okay, I only have an hour and a half. What do I really
Mhm.
need to get done? And what doesn't really need to?
Yeah. I think that that's especially hard. She talked about grading, and that's so difficult because that feels like, well, but that's something I have to do. So it doesn't matter
Hmm.
if it takes 1 hour or 5 hours, I have to get it done. But then if we don't get it done, then it starts to pile up. And so that can get really overwhelming. And especially, she mentioned her concentration being shot. And that like hit me, because I've had those seasons of life where it doesn't matter how much I want to grade. I can sit there for 5 hours. I'm only going to get an hour of good work done because I'm having such a hard time concentrating. And we only have so much control over that. So then I think we kind of have to look to what do we do when, what, like you said, okay, I look at my week, I've only got 5 extra hours, but I've got 10 hours worth of grading. Like, what do we do then?
Yes. And Ashley, you were telling me about a strategy you use sometimes when you're like, I'm so behind in grading. I'm kind of declaring, I forget what you called it, like a reset or
Yeah.
grading zero.
Mhm.
Can you share that?
Yeah, this has happened to me before, where I just look at my grading stack and I'm like, these are so late. It's not going to benefit the students at this point for me to even give them this feedback. Um, I need to basically grade the bare minimum and throw out the rest. And so I'll go through my stack. I'll say, what is still, either I need to grade it for myself to check and see what the students learned, or I think it would still be useful for the students to get feedback. And then I literally recycle the rest. The students never see it again. I've never had a single student complain, not one. And then I get my grading done and I reset. And yeah, that it absolutely helps, because otherwise you're constantly behind and you're collecting more work every week. And so then the stack never ever dwindles, and in fact it just grows.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to get back caught up on that once you're that far behind. I mean, so a couple other thoughts I had with grading in particular is you can always look at, how much am I grading? Do I need to be grading that much?
Mhm,
Sometimes we think I have to grade everything, but ask yourself, could I grade half of what I'm grading and
mhm.
still accomplish my goals? Have enough grades, give the feedback, especially for classwork and homework. We don't have to grade all of that. I always had a policy that anything could be graded. So they never knew what
Yes.
was and wasn't that kept them accountable. But I don't know, I'd grade maybe a third of the classwork. I graded more of the homework, but you can ask yourselves that, can I grade half of this and it's still basically
Mhm.
accomplished the same thing? Another thing I like to do or recommend sometimes if you're really, really behind and you're like, okay, I already dwindled it, but
Mhm.
I need to grade, like maybe I got papers to grade, or like I needed some lesson planning
Mhm.
time, is you can kind of schedule a little bit of a retreat where you take some time and you're like, okay, communicate with my family. Like I am going to the library after school and I'm going to be there until 9.
Yeah.
You guys make dinner for yourself and like give yourself some of that time that you wouldn't normally have. That can be really, sometimes you can really plow through a lot when there's no
Mhm.
distractions, no one asking you, no guilt that you're not doing things for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and I would also recommend, especially if concentration is a problem, I would really recommend reduce your rubric. So it doesn't matter if normally you grade on and this is, I'm an English teacher, so this is an English perspective. So maybe this doesn't apply to every teacher, but if you normally grade for 5 different things, grade for 2 or 3, because it will be faster and your concentration, like that's a real problem. Like you cannot make yourself concentrate more than your capacity is currently at for concentration. And so like reducing the rubric, make it smaller, make it, and maybe that's just for this year. You might be like, oh my gosh, I'm a bad teacher. I need to give them feedback on all 5 things. Nope, not this year. 2 to 3, move on. Like
Mhm.
it'll still be valuable for them.
Yeah, and you can obviously switch your rubric for different papers. It's not like you're only
Hmm.
looking at 2 things for the whole year. Yeah, that's a
Exactly.
really, really helpful thing. There's a
Yeah.
lot. If you're an English teacher, there's a lot of different things you can do to help just reduce time spent with grading. Maybe we can link some of them in the show notes below. So, and any final advice that you think you'd have for this teacher?
I think just again, remembering to be gracious with yourself during this time. Stop pushing yourself. Accept the reality that you're not going to be able to work at the same capacity, and that you don't have the same amount of time to work, and adjust accordingly. Because trying to continue this cycle of exhaustion is not going to work, and it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad teacher. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's just where you're at and what you have capacity for at this time. Um, and the kids aren't going to care. The kids won't even notice probably. But it's important to kind of just acknowledge that reality and give yourself a lot of grace.
Yeah, a lot of times we think something is essential when it's really not. It's just
Yeah,
we're the only one that's going to notice the difference. So thank you so much.
exactly.
That's great advice. For those of you listening, if you're thinking, man, I'm with you, but I'm still not sure, like, how do I actually cut stuff out? It still feels impossible. We're having a free training coming up soon called Help, There's Too Much on My Plate. So if that sounds like you, join us at teachfortheheart.com/plate. Sign up. It's completely free and we'll help you there. Also, if you have a question you would like discussed on these episodes of the podcast, you can just type it in or drop us a voicemail at teachfortheheart.com/teacher talk. Teachfortheheart.com/teacher talk. Well, this episode has been brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. All views and opinions are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of the Herzog Foundation. Thank you so much for being with us. I look forward to speaking with you again soon. In the meantime, teacher, remember, God is at work in you and through you, and He's using you to make a difference. Keep your eyes on Him and teach for the heart.